Good afternoon. Well, I think nobody really knows exactly which way the dollar is going to go. And in the beginning of this year, everyone was a dollar bull and it was going one way. And then when suddenly the Fed became rather dovish, the whole situation changed. Hana has always maintained a hedging policy because we also recognize that we really don't know which way it's going. And a weaker baht helps us, obviously, and a stronger baht does the opposite as we are exporters. So as the baht has strengthened somewhat, relatively speaking, over the past few months, our hedging policy will, to a certain extent, defray that situation.
What's the sweet spot when you look at dollar baht for you, Richard?
Sorry?
What would be the sweet spot in dollar baht, in the currency cross for you? I mean, at what level is most favorable for your operations?
Well, what every business wants is actually a stable currency situation rather than an aggressively fluctuating one. And obviously for us, a weaker baht, the better. But realistically, if we could stay at 36 baht, we'd be more than happy.
Okay, lovely. Let's get on to business conditions. Domestically, in the markets in Asia where you operate and in your key export markets, Richard, how would you characterize them right now?
Well, I think Thailand in general, Thailand's electronics industry is dependent on global demand. You know, the majority of what Thailand does in terms of electronic manufacturing are exported. And as such, of course, the global economy has not, has been rather benign. So that, I think, will be reflected through in a number of companies' earnings going forward. All the parts that we make will go to foreign countries, and we're dependent on demand in China, US, and Europe. And we all know that China itself is grappling with a reduction in growth, and therefore, in general, I don't see a particularly strong situation for electronics exports going forward this year.
All right, so you're downbeat. And Richard, please give me a line on your capital spending intentions for the next 12 months, if you could, because if the CLMV countries, that's Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar and Vietnam, are offering potential demand growth incrementally, then are you going to be investing more there? And if so, how much more?
Well, having said that, in general, I think the overall demand is benign. That doesn't necessarily mean to say that certain companies can't still grow. And what we've seen over the past 6 months is a huge number of M&A activity in the electronic space, and that affords a number of opportunities for companies like Hana, who are in the outsourcing, in the outsourcing business. I think demand in general in the ASEAN region will still be very heavily influenced by China. We've seen actually China PMI pick up recently, which is a good sign, but whether that can be consistent and continue, I think the jury is still out. But in general, I think those economies are going to be ultimately influenced by what goes on in China.
Can I ask you about ASEAN broadly and the ASEAN economic community, Richard? Is that going to be a big driver of longer-term demand? How significant and how big a game changer is that going to be for your business?
I don't think it's going to be a huge game changer for us. But that said, if there are real barriers broken down in terms of tariffs, then I think it's going to be far more meaningful. And again, I've not really seen any concrete results in terms of how goods will have their tax reduced if they're sold within the AEC, the new AEC that's been created since the start of this year. As you may know, we've set up an operation, the first company in our industry to set up an operation in Cambodia, which is a play on labor costs, because labor is going to continue to increase either aggressively or less aggressively, but still going to inexorably increase. And we've just seen in China since the end of last year a 50% increase in salaries. In Thailand, it was announced at 20%, but I think realistically it's going to be more like 6 or 7%. There's a negotiation process going on. And Cambodia now is becoming very attractive for a number of companies who are struggling with this inexorable increase in labor. And not only the increase, but also the shortage in labor, because young people coming into the labor market don't really want to work in manufacturing anymore. They prefer to work in the service sector.